Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. I saw someone say, Happy Chat Chats to all whom celebrate, and I think that's very funny. Because this is the best time of the week. Welcome in. Demler, Roach, Mom, Nuclei. Oh, Nuclei said the one who celebrate. That's excellent. Tortilla, Russian, Silvera, Logan, of course, Aloka, J7, Mom Tomology, welcome in as always. Al, Rocksters, Nikki, Fuzzy Emu, Renshaw, Droopy, Emerald Pigeon, Sam, Purgatory, Quokka. Hello everyone. How are we doing? Great time to stream. We started studying for my biology exams. Yes, well, if your biology exams have anything to do with bugs, ask those questions now. Nuclei, I am quite good. Thank you for asking. Today was a pretty solid day. Part of my new job responsibilities are training plant inspectors on what to look for certain beetle pests. And so I had my first training session today, the first one that I was leading, at least. So I was obviously nervous about that, not worried about public speaking or anything like that, but just because it was a new audience. And, first time doing this specific thing for this specific job, I wanted to make sure it was good. And the training organizer said I was very well spoken, and one of the attendees said it was the most informative ID session they had all day. So, despite some other work stuff not being quite as nice, that was a big highlight for the day. It was good to hear that feedback. And I think this helps a lot in terms of being comfortable and being able to answer questions kind of on the fly. So I think, honestly, doing Twitch streams has helped professionally quite a bit, which I think is a very odd connection to make, especially when it's not like a full-time streaming thing. But as always, you guys rock. Thank you for being here and choosing your Wednesday nights to spend with us and the bugs. Largely the reason... Oh. Well, I didn't mean to do that, Roxers, but thank you for choosing this instead. There are VODs for both, I would assume, but you don't get the same experience if you're not bug hunting live. Untapped reservoir. You're so right, Logan. But yeah, that was my day. And then we just finished up pre-chat chats over on my stream. For those of you that don't know, I do about 2 hours of streaming right before regular chat chats on Wednesdays, where we look at a microscope and look at some of the beetles that I have. We finished off learning how to identify the scarabs this week. So next week we'll be moving on to drawer number 2. Thanks, Tortilla. Yeah, so if you're interested in more Twitch bug content, you can come over to my streams. So far, looking kind of anti. See a couple things poking around on these different cams. Millipede season yet or not? I think it's spring. I do think it is. I think it is spring. Typically when the millipedes show up, but yeah, bugs at the poop party, as always. For them, that's for the insects, that's the untapped reservoir is the poop resource. It is actually a really beneficial resource for a lot of organisms. It is what we would call an ephemeral resource, meaning that it's not there all the time. Um, in the pasture here at Alveus, there certainly is dung all of the time. Um, but uh, in nature, where animals are not as concentrated, dung is a really good resource for the dung beetles, for some of these other things that would be feeding on poop or just wanting to get the uh, salts or liquids out of it. So it is actually a really good place to find insects of all sorts, as we're seeing on these streams. There's not just dung specialist insects on it. There are other things that will go to it as well, kind of for like secondary effects. What would you call a resource that is always present? Permanent? Permanent resource, I would say. And then if there's something that is always there, but it changes seasonally, so like leaves on a tree and things like that, those are temporal resources, where it changes drastically, but it will change regularly. That would be a temporal resource. So like fruit or flowers on a tree would be temporal because they're only there during the season when that plant is flowering or producing fruit. But an ephemeral resource is like a very, very short window, usually from some sort of like drastic event, like dung or an animal dying. Whale falls in the ocean are like a super ephemeral resource because you never know when it's going to happen or where it's going to happen. So when it does, everything just kind of goes to it. So yeah, there would be that. Permanent resource. Nuclei, that's perfect. That's exactly what we do there. Permanent resource. Everything is, let's get philosophical here for a second. Everything is temporary, man. Those trees that are around for hundreds of years in the short term are a permanent resource, but over a long period, they're pretty temporal. Obviously, that's not really going to matter to an insect, so I think for like a living tree would be a permanent resource. But sap is not necessarily permanent. There are different times of the year when sap is more prevalent, which is why like you do like maple tapping to make syrup and stuff like that at certain times of the year. It's when the tree is taking up more moisture to like push more nutrients up through the xylem and phloem. So change around, but yeah, there are resources that are there all the time, and all the time, quote unquote, on like different scales. Yeah, trees are renewable though, for sure. Not applied to dung in literary circles. No, probably not casual, but it does also give its name, or it gives the name of an insect order that we've seen on stream before, I think. Mayflies, the insects that are notoriously known for having a very, very short lifespan. Their order name is Ephemeroptera, which comes from the same root word of ephemeral, essentially meaning like for a very short time. And that's always been slightly misleading. Everyone always hears like, oh yeah, their mayflies only live for a day. And that is true sometimes. But their whole lifespan. They will often live for several years underwater before emerging as an adult. And that very ephemeral or very short-lived stage is the adult And some of them do have very short adult lifespans, but they are very rarely actually 24 hours. Um, you get them seasonally. It's one of those things where they will all come out at once and then they will all kind of disappear at once. Um, but yeah, so mayflies ephemeroptera comes from being only alive for a very short amount of time, and sometimes that is just a few days, but it can be up to a couple of weeks in some species. So it makes sense, and you start seeing those connections of root words as you go through more science and start understanding like why things are called what they are. Danny, hello. Haven't seen you pop in here in a while. Good to see you again. Only lived for a May. A whole May would be pretty long for some of those things. So not only, and they're also out for longer than May, sort of like May or June beetles. You see them in other months than just their namesakes. But when you do get mayfly explosions, not maybe explosions is not the right word. They don't actually explode. When you get mayfly emergences, depending on the conditions that exist in the year prior, mayfly emergences up in the Great Lakes region of the United States, you can see them on weather radar sometimes. They're that big, and there's that many, like millions and millions and millions of individuals emerging all at one time. You will be able to see those emergences on weather radar. Cricket. Cricket, cricket. Are June bugs beetles? Yes, they are. They're a type of scarab, the subfamily Melolonthinae, Melolonthinae. They're sort of like the typical drab brown scarab, but they're actually really diverse. Some of those groups have like more than 100 species in the US alone. So every time that you've seen a June bug, it might not always be the same thing. There's actually a very high chance that it's some totally different thing that you've never seen before, which is kind of neat. But yes, they are indeed a beetle. Are there other month flies? Yes, Frodo, there are. I was thinking about that. I was just thinking about that after we talked about mayflies, and then I said June beetles, and I was like, well, what other months are there? The only other one that I can think of offhand are March flies, which is the family Bibionidae. And that's, if you're from the southeast, if you've ever heard of love bugs. I think I've talked about love bugs on this stream before. But love bugs are a type of March fly. I would have to do some digging to see if there were any other month insects. At the family level, I don't think that they would exist. I don't think there's like a November flea or something that I just don't know about. But it's very possible that there is like a species name that would be something like the I don't know, like the November snowy tree cricket or whatever. So I would have to think about that. But yeah, March flies, May flies, and June beetles. I've put that down in my notes as month bugs. Tortilla. Tortilla. I know the guy that posted that picture. And I think that was just a joke on it being a mayfly that he found in April. Those initial postings on Bug Guide, those like those first lines are submitted with the whatever the person said, um, and not necessarily like the actual identification of the insect. But yes, I bet that would be a joke on that one. So many month bugs. I tried with this species. What is this? 12 months of insect common names. December month, there were more moths and other organisms after months. Oh, interesting. October thorn. Interesting. August carpenter. Type of carpenter bee. Okay. That's actually a very fun... That's a very fun link, Roxers. Thank you for that. I'll post that in the Discord later. But it looks like they were able to fill out all of the months. And there's a big discussion then of other ones that they were able to find. So, very cool. Flogs. With month bugs. Roach, there's a book. Somebody posted it. I forget where it was, but there was a book that was like a bug a day book sort of thing. Like, it was, 365 pages, and every page was kind of like just general information about a certain insect. Somebody may have posted that in the bug court at some point. But the problem with that is, you could definitely make one of those every year, but you would have to get into like more and more and more obscure insects every time. With just the ground beetle species in the US, we could make 365, roughly 400. We could probably make like 50 calendars. No, that can't be right. 3. I can't do math. 2,500 divided by 365 is like, it's like 7, right? That sounds about right. Yeah, so like with just ground beetle species only found in the US, we could probably make like 7 calendars, roughly, if you did one species a day. But obviously there's lots of other groups, there's lots of other bugs that you could do that with. So it wouldn't just have to be ground beetles, but I would be happy with that. Are there enough good photos? Aloka? That is indeed the problem. That is indeed the problem. There's photos, maybe not of high enough quality to put in a calendar. But definitely photos. Bug Guide is a phenomenal resource for North America. It's been linked in here a few times tonight already, but it's a user-submitted thing, so it's people that are finding these things, posting them, and then other experts or the people who were posting them identifying them. But the range maps that you get from Bug Guide are not always fully complete, and they acknowledge this on the website. They're fully aware of the limitation. But because it's user-submitted, if somebody hasn't submitted a species or a family or a group from a certain state, the map doesn't get colored in, even though it's very likely there. I think now that I'm saying this out loud, I think we've talked about it before, even somewhat recently. According to Bug Guide's distribution maps, there are no mosquitoes in South Dakota, just because nobody has posted a specimen or a photo of a mosquito from South Dakota. But there is a ton of photos of rather obscure insects on there. But there are new guide pages that get added all the time. So, something to keep in mind. They do not exist. They have calendars, the bug of the month, but not bug of the day. That's funny. Mom Tomology has, for the past 2 years, gotten me a bird of the day calendar. And yes, casual, that is exactly it. She's been looking for a bug of the day calendar. That's very fun. But she's gotten me these bird of the day calendars, and every morning when I was on my grind and doing it correctly, I would send her the bird of the day and let her know whether or not I've seen it or not. But with my new apartment setup and everything, I don't have a good place to put the calendar, and so now, like, every week or a week and a half, I'll just send her a video of me going through the last couple pages on the calendar and saying whether or not I've seen it. But I would imagine she's looking for a calendar like that for bugs. Yes, this is a wolf spider. Good, 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 good. Everybody nailed it. I would even be willing to say that this is probably Rabidosa rabida, which is the rabid wolf spider. Maybe I wouldn't be okay saying that. No, I'd be okay saying that. Yeah. Rabid wolf spider, like rabies, but it's not rabies. It has nothing to do with rabies, but it's just it's its fast movement usually, where rabid kind of sort of devolves from rapid in some ways. But yes, this is the rabid wolf spider, but it does not have rabies. Thank you, Bagel. Looks like a cyclops. Yeah, igloo. What's so cute for rabbit? It's not rabid. Igloo. So they actually have 8 eyes, and wolf spiders in particular have really good vision because their middle eyes on the back row are super enlarged. And so we're seeing the reflection off of the tapetum lucidum, which is a membrane in the back of the eye that lets them get a lot of good light in low light conditions. It's the same structure that reflects in the back of like cat and dog eyes. In, you know, when you see them at night, it gives them that eye glow. That's what we're seeing right now in the wolf spider, and not all spiders will have that. So it's one of the identifying characters of wolf spiders, or it's one of the things that can help identify wolf spiders on the cams in IR like this. So not all of the spiders that we see on these cameras will have that glowing eye spot. And it's actually 8 eyes, like I said, glowing, mostly two big ones, but the reflection off of the thing kind of makes it look into one eye. So it does look pretty cyclopsy right now. Is that for hunting? Yes. So just like big cats and things like that will hunt in low light, the tapetum lucidum sort of reflects the light back and gives it more oomph, more bang for its buck as it's being absorbed by the eyes. So you see that light reflection in active hunting spiders that are typically active more so at night. So orb weavers, for instance, they build that big intricate web that we're used to seeing. They don't have glowing eyes because they don't need good vision in order to be able to hunt. They set up their web and that is their thing. wolf spiders can make silk, and they do for various things, but they don't make a web necessarily to specifically for like prey acquisition. They're active hunters. They will chase stuff down and probe around using chemical signals and also tactile signals. They can feel vibrations really, really well. So that's how they will actively hunt. And wolf spiders, as it so happens in the US, are some of the most diverse spiders. There are over 200 species of wolf spider in the US. And so on the cameras, we do see a ton of wolf spiders, partially because there's a lot of them, but also there's just a lot at Alveus, and they're easier to see because we can hone in on those glowing eyes. Easier than seeing some of these other groups that don't have that. Macro pics of... Oh, thanks, Al. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah. Good night, Sleepy Bunny. Have a good evening. Blood hydraulics. Nuclei, that is cool. You keep telling them. You find other friends. You gotta find the right crowd. You really do. I've after 10 years of doing entomology stuff now, people are either like really into it and they're like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that, like that's a job, blah blah blah, like ask a ton of questions. And then there's the other people that just kind of go, ew, and don't care at all. And it's a very easy litmus test for meeting new people. If they're like, oh, gross, blah blah blah, I'm like, okay, well, you're not worth my time anyway. But there are plenty of people that it's just like, I didn't know that that was a job you could do or a thing you could have. So like, tell me everything about that. And it usually is a pretty big hit at parties. Because then the next logical step is they're like, oh, bugs, like, oh, I saw this crazy thing like 3 months ago. Let me see if I can find the picture. And then they'll scroll through their phone and they'll show me a bug, and I'm like, oh, yes, okay. It is this. And then they're like, whoa, that's so cool. And yeah, that is my litmus test for meeting new people oftentimes, is just explaining what the job is, and it's either morbid curiosity or like, that's gross. And I know which group of people that I want to hang out with. So that makes it easy. And I'm certainly, not all of my friends are into it. I've got friends from high school and stuff that still think it's kind of odd, but, you pick and choose your battles. But if you don't have any friends that are bug lovers, you should at least try to get some, so that you have somebody to talk to about it. No, boring jobs is relief when someone's body. Yes, I agree, Molly. And like, a big thing, and one of my responses to a lot of times, is like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an entomologist, so I work with bugs. And they go, oh, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, what do you do? I'm an accountant. And it's like, I could never do that. That's horrendous to me. But everybody has a thing. Jobs are all equally important. Not all jobs are equally interesting, I don't think. But there's a lot of, finance stuff that I could just never. Not rewarding enough for me, not as much stimulation. There's just not enough going on there. But if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. It's totally fine. And usually when I bring up that point, it's like, oh, whatever you do, that sounds stupid and dumb to me. Like, why would you do that? You know, it works. What do we got? Another cricket here. Cricket flage. Can't quite tell, honestly. Oh yeah. Mia, yes, we are looking for bugs. Hello, hello. London Brawley. Hi, how are you? Into bug appreciators, yes. Yes, yes, yes. We are pro bug propaganda here, everyone. These streams help. And that's really part of, you know, in addition to just we're so back. Oh, saved as a pirate. That's funny. All right, we're here. So as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by the void. In addition to just hanging out and teaching you guys things directly during chat chats and like during Maya's bug streams and during collabs and like the bigger picture, right, is this extended education that is nearly impossible to quantify, but it's one of the big things that makes this worth doing, right? You know, everyone telling me that you're like talking to your friends about bugs and you're explaining the cool facts that you learn on chat chats makes me so unbelievably happy and makes it so unbelievably rewarding to do this. Because not only do I have an audience right now of 600 people listening to me talk about bugs, if all of you go tell one friend a bug fact, I have doubled the amount of outreach. And it's easy enough to track attendance in here and see what these streams bring in and how many people are at chat chats every week. And that's like a phenomenal amount of reach anyway. You know, I could be doing an outreach event at a school for 30 kids at one time and that's it. Or I could be here doing it for 600 people, or however many that we get usually. And we can quantify that. We can quantify that bit of bug hunt. But there's this X factor of what you all take away with it and the education that you do on the behalf of, you know, of chat chats and of Alveus and all this other stuff. That's really like the extended goal, and that's pretty cool. So I love hearing that you're talking to people about insects outside of this, even if they don't really have an interest. We are pro bug propaganda over here. 2 cockroaches bare hands the first time of the day, thanks to Alveus. Stuck in your wheelbarrow. Hell yeah, Johnzilla64. Love to hear that. Bug loving roommate. Reverse funnel. Pyramid scheme. Drop bug facts. Yes, this is excellent. I love hearing all of this. Convince your sister not to spray pesticides around the perimeter of your apartment. Based Molly. That's fantastic. Found well who loved my spouse bug hunt shirt and that they love bug hunt but never got their username. Ah, oh, bummer. Customer occasionally demands fun fashion at half times. This is great. Yeah, I love hearing all of this. Makes me smile and it makes me feel like these are they're having the intended effect of you learning things and then passing that information on. So we love to hear that. Do Katydids appear year-round? Because I've noticed we haven't seen any in like 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, Russian, they should be out for most of the year. I don't know about fully year-round because it does get pretty cold in Austin in like, Alveus in Austin in the later months. But I would expect that they're still out now. It's 70 degrees is definitely not cold enough to knock them. But it's a matter of finding them. Katydids are pretty well camouflaged, and there could be. Logan is phenomenal at finding the stuff on the screen. It is very quite impressive how well that we're able to do on that. But we could pass over Katydids and not really notice if Logan doesn't spot an antenna twitching or a leg sticking out. We might not see the Katydids. So it's not a matter of them not being out. It's a matter of them being out and in a place that we can easily see them. There's a lot of reach with these cameras, but it could just be on the other side of the tree for all we know, So they should definitely be around still, I would expect, but definitely not guaranteed to find one every week. Aphids and grasshoppers. Yeah, okay, Roxers. You're pretty local. It is, Al. And some of the stuff that we hone in on, finding specific ants and narrowing in on individual dung beetles, it's like you've seen how big Alveus is during the collabs, when people are walking around and things like that. You understand how large these enclosures are. And thinking about finding a bug in all of that space is actually like, it's really impressive how many we actually find a week. Just given the space, and the limitations of not being able to get every angle, I think we are supremely lucky with how many we do find on average. I will say, it is coming up to the time where things start to slow down. That just happens with seasonality and things like that. But there is always something to see. Whether or not it's going to be on camera, that's a different story. But yeah, so with that, with sharing your personal bug stories, did anyone else find anything super cool in the last week? Somebody had roaches, spiders, any other exciting bug finds that were not spoken of yet? I know the Discord has been kind of popping off. There's been a lot of people posting stuff that they're finding. Bug story season, yeah. Weird little moth that looks like a green leaf. Sick. Caterpillars. Excellent, excellent. Scorpion earlier in the evening. 5 bee flies. Hell yeah. Bee flies are excellent. Kissing bugs in your windows? Well, Not as exciting. Maybe one that we're not as excited about, but I think kissing bugs are neat. Cool bugs at the museum. No bugs in the city. Bummer. Roly polies. Silverfish. Spider on your hibiscus. Moths, roaches. Mosquitoes. House centipede. And this is the other cool thing, is some of you are regulars enough in chat where I have at least a vague idea of where you are from. You know, don't dox yourself, don't dox anybody else. But hearing reports from all of these different places is really interesting to see what's showing up where. Tortilla, that's a bold statement coming from you. Triangulates your position by bug. Yeah, what did you see in the last 3 weeks? I can tell you where in the where in the US you're from. Maybe not even the US. Where around the world you're from. Regional names for common stuff is fun from a language perspective. Yeah, it is. There's that really prominent example of like what the people across Europe or Britain, I forget which one it is, all the different names that people have for isopods or for roly-polies. And there's a map that's like different regions in England or in Europe. Again, I forget which one it is. That has whatever the local people generally call that. And I think that is really interesting. As we've talked about before, with common names, it can be slightly frustrating when people are like, well, that's what I call it. And it's like, well, that's not exactly the most helpful thing. And because common names can vary regionally, sometimes it's hard to narrow in on what people are talking about. But photos are always helpful when you're talking about bugs, because even if you call it something different, I can usually, you know, make out what it is from a photo. Flying, harvesting earlier. Oh, crane fly. Yeah. Southern two-stripe walking sticks on your evening walks. Oh, yeah, Roxers. Those are cool. So we haven't seen any of those on the streams yet, but Southern two-line walking sticks are fat for walking sticks. They're quite chunky. They're not that long, but they're dark, and they have these two pale stripes that run down their back. And typically you will find a very, very small male riding on the back of a much, much larger female. They're doing the do, and then they are also mate guarding. So he is essentially preventing other males from mating with that female. But they do have a projectile chemical defense. It smells, to me, it smells like a very artificial vanilla scent when they do it. But they can shoot, and they aim for the eyes. If you're, you know, a predator. I've never actually had one shoot at me. But just picking them up, there is like a leftover. Oh, that's cool. Excellent find. Harvest, everybody, harvest. Praying mantises feeding on moths. That's cool. Catching up. Sorry. if we would get it to calm down. Yes, this is a Harvestman Donkus. This is an armored Harvestman. Tortilla hit with the link, as always. Thank you. The Order of Pilionids are the Harvestmen in general. But then you have these... Maybe is it Larynodis? I can't tell. I'll have to check it after stream. Maybe it's not one of the armored ones. But yes, it is much beefier than the typical Harvestmen that we're used to seeing on these streams. But it is still got that singular body region, that combined cephalothorax that you see in Harvestmen, and it's kind of fused to that abdomen. So it's an arachnid. It's got 8 legs. You can see 4 on each side. And it has that essentially singular body segment rather than 2 like an actual spider. So globular. These ones are scavengers, and they will eat small prey, but it is not going to take down that cricket. That's too big of a commitment for him. If it was dead, it would probably try to eat parts of it, but it is not predatory to take down a cricket of that size. That's another big myth that that gets perpetuated a lot, is that Harvestmen, or daddy longlegs, or whatever you want to call them, are the most venomous arachnid, but their fangs are too small to bite. All of that is false. They are arachnids, so 1 point there. They're not venomous at all. They don't have any venom. It's not that they're too small to bite, they just don't have any venom. And they also don't have fangs. They have chelicerae, which are sort of like little tiny pairs of mouths that act as their food intake, but they are not active predators unless you are a very, very small thing like a springtail or maybe even a mite. No, they don't have any fangs. I have no idea, DJ Rose. I don't know where that came from. Because even if it was like one of the other things that people call daddy longlegs, which are like cellar spiders are also not like negligibly venomous to humans. Those do have fangs, so they can bite. But their venom is nothing for a human. You know, all spiders asterisk, there is one family in the US that doesn't have venom. But in general, all spiders do have venom because that's how they eat. You know, they need that venom to dispatch crickets and flies and like whatever food source they're feeding on. They need venom to subdue it. So they have venom. But is that venom an issue for humans? No. The only ones that you have to worry about in the US, at least, I know there's some Australians here, and I'm not going to touch on all of your crazy stuff that you guys got going on, but in the US, we've got Loxosceles, which are like the recluse genus, and then we've also got Latrodectus, which is the widow genus. There hasn't been enough testing on like red widows or brown widows or desert recluses or anything like that to see whether or not they are on par with the traditionally potent ones. But black widows and brown recluses in general are the only spiders in the US that you need to worry about in any way, shape, or form. Everything else can bite. Anything with a mouth can bite. But the venom is not medically significant, meaning that just keeping the bite mark clean and everything like that should be enough to, you know, deal with it. There might be a little bit of redness and a little bit of itching, but other than that, not really a problem. Yellow sac spider, yeah, that's another one, Sam. Sam, those used to be considered medically significant, but they got tested, and like they got venom composition tested, and they don't actually cause any issues with humans. So it's a whole thing. Cellar spiders, the ones that shoot web out of their feet. No, I think you're thinking about spitting spiders. And that's like out of the mouth parts region, not out of the feet. I can bite, I may bite. Yeah, exactly. I would be more worried about one of you chatters biting me than just about any spider. So, that goes to show. Tortilla, any of them. Any of them. You guys are crazy. But, Mythbusters covered cell spiders, venom's most deadly. Main points were so venomous, but not massively so. Correct. Their fangs can't easily penetrate human skin. That's probably true. Cellar spiders are pretty dainty in the grand scheme of things. So I wouldn't be surprised on that. But I don't remember that specific Mythbusters episode, which is a surprise because boy howdy did I watch a lot of Mythbusters as a kid. But I'm glad that that's out there and that they did test that. It's harder to do animal myths like that because, you know, lab conditions and everything are kind of a necessity to control variables like penetration and fang depth and how much venom is injected and whatnot. So there's a lot of different components to it, but I'm glad that they did something about it. Worked at summer camp, people getting bites that left big old bug bite. We sent spider samples to entomologists. Don't think we ever figured out what it was. Yeah, casual. So that's a problem that we run across a lot as the entomology community. Unless you saw the spider physically bite you, it is very hard to confirm whether or not something is a spider bite. There is a huge disservice that the medical community does of like any unidentified thing. A lot of times doctors will just say like, oh yeah, that's probably a spider bite, but like the actual amount of people that are realistically getting bitten by spiders on a regular basis is like so small. People are saying like, oh yeah, like I can see that there are 2 little fang marks in my hand, and it's like, well, any spider that would leave visible fang marks would have to be like wolf spider or tarantula sized. A lot of these little things, their fangs are fractions of millimeters long, and so something like that isn't going to leave an obvious pinprick in the skin. And there's also no test for it, so people are like, oh, my doctor had it tested, they said it was a brown recluse. They can't do that. There is nothing that exists that can tell you what it was. So, green lacewing, one of our neuropteran friends. Let me catch up here. Hella Mythbusters. Excellent, excellent. Little bite, lot of germs. Yes, that is most likely what happened. They're freaking... I don't know if they're freaking around. I don't think they do that while they're flying. If only they would land for us. And for Logan, make Logan's life easier. Ooh, ooh. Yes, look at that. No, we're out of focus. We were so close. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, they're called lace wings. If we get it on the other side of the plant here, and Tortilla also sent a link, which is very helpful to look at right now. Their wings are very, very lacy, as the name would suggest, the lace wings. The order is Neuroptera. Neuro meaning like nerve or net, and Terra meaning wing. So their order name comes from the fact that their wings have a lot of cells in them, because there's a lot of different veins in the wings that create this net or mesh-like pattern, or lace-like pattern, if you will. Now, this isn't something that we're going to be able to pick up on the cameras, but for your personal edification, there are green lace wings, and then there are brown lace wings that are in separate families. And brown lace wings, the wing veins on the leading edge of the wing are shaped like a Y. So they go out and then they fork, and then they touch the edge of the wing. In green lace wings, their coastal veins are just straight. They just directly attach to the leading edge of the forewing. So again, that's not something that we're going to be able to see here, but that is a good character for green versus brown lacewings. I don't know that we've ever had a brown lacewing on stream, but additionally, their mouth parts, the brown lacewings, are going to be directed downwards, while green lacewings have their mouth parts kind of directed forward. This is a nice end. This one is probably foraging, looking for some pollen, or feeding on the little bits of flowers here on this grass. Let's see the green one. It's nice green. Yeah. What's up, Doe? Thanks for the 32 months. Your mouth parts are also facing forward. That's good to know. I would be concerned otherwise. All right, y'all. It is unfortunately time. That one seemed to go pretty quick. Doe, you made it here just in time for the end. But yes, a massive thank you to Logan, our wonderful camera operator, even on his vacation, taking the time to come out here and hunt our bugs expertly, might I add. So, as always, thank you, Logan. Pleasure working with you. Thank you all of chat for being here. I got a little sappy about it during the actual stream, so I don't need to get too far into it again. But your willingness to be here and learn about bug fun facts and then redistribute the bug fun facts is incredibly rewarding, and I am grateful every week for this community. You guys are fantastic. If you do not get enough of your bug fix on Wednesday evenings, hit the exclamation point bug cord for the link to the Alveus Bug Enjoyers Discord. There are identification channels, just random photo dumps. There's a really cool channel that I like about bug merch that's in there, so people get like their pins and their nails and whatever else they have that has bugs on them. Always love to see all that. There is also a new channel in there for role selection. If you go in there and you select the designated role, you'll get notified about my personal Twitch streams. I started streaming somewhat recently. You guys have been uber supportive of that, and it is more bug content. So if you like what we're doing here on Chat Chats, you can come over to my streams. I have a microscope that is set up to show up on the stream, so we're able to look at specimens a lot more in depth. I even had a guest appearance by my pet ants tonight, so we got to watch them do their thing for a little bit. Or I'm on @EvanTomology on Twitch as well, so you can find me in the Discord, on Twitch, or with the role selection thing. Everybody, also, please check out the Alveus Clips channel, run by one of our community members. Gets the highlights of the content posted up on YouTube, so give that a follow. And then, last but not least, please stick around for rounds. We are going to check on the animals one more time before everyone heads off for the night. Make sure everything is all good, and that will be happening immediately after Chat Chats are over. I think that is all of my announcements for the week. One last thank you to you guys for being here, and I will see y'all in the Discord, and I will see you here next week for another Chat Chats. Bye, y'all. Have a good night.